This is another edition of New Gamers Play New Games.
Yay!
These are my three delightful friends who I will let introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Aryelle.
I can cut out all of this awkward pauses.
No, I think you should keep
You're
it.
gonna cut me out completely.
Yeah.
I'm weird.
That's where the picture of the games are gonna go. Just right
The box is going to be right over your Specby shirt.
Hi, I'm Zach.
and Pat. These three lovely people, we have been doing Shakespeare in the Park all summer long. And so what I love to do on theater contracts and just, longer contracts in general is bring a whole slew of games. You can go, I'll link to all the games that I brought. And these are the games that actually sort of got tabled. Over the last month or so, kind of August, we've been doing two shows. So we've been rehearsing one show and then performing the other one at night. So during August, when everything was up, we now had some time to get together and play games and
Not eat.
and just devote ourselves to playing games. And so what I thought would be fun is to hear the ranking of all of the different games. Aryelle and Zach have both played 9 games. Pat has played 13 on his list. But what we're going to do...
13?
Yeah, I'm a junkie for it.
Damn.
Yeah, we've been meeting at random times.
Wow. Here I was thinking I had a healthy list.
But in order to keep the list sort of the same, Pat's going to exclude some from the bottom and just talk about them when they come up. And he'll say, oh, that was a crossover. Because basically we all played the games together, right?
Mhm.
So there's going to be a lot of crossover on this list. But first, before we get into that, I kind of want to go through and if you wouldn't mind, talking about your experience with the board gaming hobby, because we have a varying level of experience and knowledge before this summer.
Mhm.
Zach, what about you?
I'll start. So, obviously board games have been present throughout my life. Like when I think about board games, I think about cottage visits, I think about vacations, I think about concentrated time with really dear people.
Yeah.
I will say though, as far as the complication of playing board games, the most difficult one that I played ahead of meeting the game board connoisseur, lovely Chris George here, is Ticket to Ride.
Okay,
that was
cool.
the most
Nice,
complicated
nice.
game that I played, and that was the first time that I sat down and had a 4-hour session of playing a game, which has since changed thanks to my lovely friend now. So I came in with limited energy, but enthusiastic energy towards the idea of playing more complex board games that are more involved than what I've played in past.
Right, cool. Aryelle, what about you? What's your sort of board game experience going into this?
Sort of similar. I guess I thought, I know what a board game is. I've played board games growing up, but I didn't know that there was a world beyond Scrabble and Mousetrap.
Yeah.
You can go to conventions and play Mousetrap and make a living with it. No, this is a whole lot more complex, and I have a new appreciation for how involved they can be.
And how many different options and that sort of stuff that exists, right?
Yeah.
And then Pat, you were more familiar with the board gaming
Definitely
hobby.
a bit more. So I probably have 12 board games, and I really enjoy playing them. It's kind of harder to get them to the table, I find. You really do need different groups of people. You can be okay, you're all busy now, but I can fill in with these random people. I just like how it kind of clicks together really random people sometimes, where you're oh, we need 4 to play this game, so here we go. And I also love systems. It's fascinating to see a new mechanic that oh my god, how is this so simple yet it makes such complicated board states and stuff. I love that about it. So I do go on Board Game Geek and just research, because it's just so cool. People actually spend all their time thinking about this, and they're sophisticated now, board games are wild.
Oh, sophisticated.
They're crazy. It's a complicated rocket making a new board game. Some people are incredible at it. Anyway.
And so coming into this, I knew that you had known a little bit more about the tabletop hobby because you said that your favorite game was Inish, right?
Yeah.
Which Pat and I did end up playing with a couple other people. You will see it on Pat's list. We'll see if it retains #1 spot or not. I don't know. Maybe because also too, it's worth talking about these rankings. How did you rank your list? I asked you all to kind of go from lowest to highest. For me, I'm going to do my own separate video of ranking all the games that I ended up playing over the summer. And some of my favorite games out there that make my top 10 may not have been on automatic top play, because it's also too the play and the experience. And most of these we played once, or the smaller ones we played multiple times. But a couple of the bigger ones we ended up playing once, right? And so how did your sort of ranking process go before we get into the actual list?
Okay, so for me, overall experience.
Cool.
Like for me, it was like who was playing the game, how the game itself
Mhm.
actually went, my understanding of the world of the game and the rules. Also the production value, because a lot of these games are very intricate and have a lot of production value. And again, because we have a gaming connoisseur here, you also like leveled that up by painting the figurines and like actually giving those the life and vitality that it needed.
Yeah.
So I would say for me, overall experience of just what I felt within that space of playing the game.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a mix for me. There's the overall experience. There's also just my level of like understanding of
Yeah,
them.
100%.
And because a lot of them we only played once.
We only played once. Like we haven't delved into them like a complete amount, or maybe
Yeah.
that once is just like, oh, it's so good, I want to play it again. I don't know. I'm interested to see
I did
where all of
notice
your ranking.
Also, that I tend to rank higher the ones that I feel like I have more of a sense of control.
Cool.
Because there's some that just like there's too many things happen in the
Yeah.
night and you don't know, and then it's like, well, you can't even have a strategy. Because
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you thought doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Or you think you're doing really well, and then you tally up the points at the very end, and it turns out you weren't. But you had no way of knowing that.
Yeah.
So that
It's like
frustrates.
so many.
And
Yeah.
it's
that we play.
upsetting
So
because
those
you're like,
ones fall down because I'm like, well, I can't even
Right.
think I'm good.
Interesting.
I have no
Interesting,
idea.
yeah.
Cool. And Pat, how about
Yeah.
you?
So mine's kind of a toss up. So like some of them I didn't have like the best experience where like I noticed like, okay, I'm actually spending a lot of this time like thinking about life because someone's taking a long time, or just like really frustrated because like the best moves are all taken and now I'm just kind of dealing with the
Yeah.
chump change here.
Yeah.
But even in those games, like if I really appreciate the systems and how they click together, then I rated them higher. Because even though I didn't necessarily enjoy the first play, I also recognize that like, okay, a couple more of these with like people that are really into this,
Right.
like that would absolutely change it. So like my rankings are equally enjoyment, like that's tantamount, but then also if there's some really nice kind of like juicy thing in there that I've never seen in a game before, I put it a little bit higher because I appreciate the novelty.
And then my question before we get into the ranking is, were there any games? Well, I guess you can talk about it during the ranking, so we don't have to. But I feel like the general vibe was it was all levels of enjoyment. It was just the amount of enjoyment that
Yeah, yeah.
happened. I feel like there might be one that I didn't feel like a lot of people had a good time with. But I think other than that, I feel like there it might be levels of enjoyment in terms of
Yeah.
like, that's just interesting to talk about too in terms of like why that happens.
I will say this, there wasn't a game that I did not enjoy. Like everything on this list, like there's nothing that I'm coming in here and being
Yeah.
like, I absolutely detest this and
Yeah.
I'll never
Yeah.
ever try it again.
I was never like, I wish I,
I
had
was,
come
yeah,
here tonight.
I was never,
hung out with
I
my
never
friends.
left a session like being
Yeah.
angry about what I just had in front of me. And like, I mean, don't get me wrong, was I angry playing these games half the time?
Aryelle might
Yes.
say differently. there's a maybe we'll find that on Aryelle's
I
list.
recovered from that. It was okay.
Nothing I literally hated with my life, though.
That's good. Okay, cool. Okay, so with that, let's start the list. We're gonna go with our top 9 because both of you have 9. However, we're gonna start with Pat with an
Okay.
honorable number 10 or whatever you put it as.
Okay, you want honorable number 10?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, or whatever the one that isn't gonna be crossed over.
Sure. Yeah.
We're gonna put that now at the bottom as like your number 10 bottom of
Right.
your list, but you can say what it actually was.
Yeah.
But it was like 12 or 13.
Okay, so I put Unbreakable as number 11. 'cause
Too many bones.
Just the two of us played it, and
Yeah.
like I appreciated it for what it was. It's like really cool seeing all these different dice and how they all click together and stuff. Ultimately, it was just a dice game, and like the whole. I thought it was really fiddly the way that the dungeon works and how all these monsters show up, and then okay, it can't go to this place, it goes to this place. I just found it like a little. It was a lot to get my head around, and the amount that I could actually control what was going on in my mind wasn't enough to make it that great. But I really appreciated like how different our player mats were and how different our abilities, and the storytelling in that game was really good. But yeah, ultimately it was just dice in the end. So I was
Just
like,
dice.
it's just a dice game.
Well, that's interesting. So Too Many Bones it's like a 2-player game. And so that was one where when you two were busy, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, Pat, let's play Too Many Bones. It's the Unbreakable version. So I'll have a review of that coming out on the channel because they sent it to me for review. But so many people are obsessed with it. They're like, oh, I need everything. Everything's like super premium. You have all these mouse pads as your character mats instead of
Oh
cardboard.
yeah, play it in the bath. That sounds great. Play it in a jacuzzi. Hey, it would go up to number 2 if we played it in a jacuzzi.
Really?
Chris, I swear.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I thought. See, I didn't. I wanted to have our jacuzzi date be a little bit later on.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah, I
I
wanted
was,
to
I was
build up
ready.
to it.
I was really ready.
That's probably the reason.
I would like to see that. I would like to see it.
That's true. We get to 20K subscribers. Pat and I will be in a jacuzzi.
That'll
That'll be the.
Yes.
But that
Big
has to happen.
cigars.
Has to
Big
happen
cigars.
before the big cigars. Has to happen before the end of the year. So probably.
Wait,
happen.
15K. Give the fans 15K, and then we get the jacuzzi.
But next time Pat and I are together.
15 or 20 for the fans.
We'll say 20. Just for logistically, because Pat lives in New Brunswick. So I think it would be
Fair.
harder. So it got to be 20 in order to justify the flight and the jacuzzi rental. Okay, let's go with number 9 then. Starting off with number 9. We'll start off with Zach. We'll go Zach, Aryelle, Pat, and we'll just kind of keep in that cycle.
Great.
We'll just keep on going this way around.
Great.
My number 9 was Keyflower.
That's what I thought it might be.
Yeah, I would say of all the games I played, it was my least favorite.
Mhm.
I have a very specific reason as to why. I just kept forgetting some of the rules. Like, especially there was the meeple, right? They were called the meeples,
Yep.
the little people. I just kept forgetting like where to put them. And then when I put them somewhere and I wanted to put them somewhere else, you were like,
Yeah.
no, you can't do that. And I was like, I just got frustrated at the meeples and I couldn't understand. That was one of the games where I felt like a bunch of the rules were
Yeah.
so tied to one another that I felt myself losing all of the knowledge of the game, and that's what kind of took me out of the experience.
Mhm.
Also, compared to other games we played, I appreciated there were other puzzle games that I felt I appreciated more that had greater production value that
Yeah.
allowed me to have more range as far as what I could do as a player.
Mhm.
That's why it's at my number 9 spot.
That's true. Yeah, we played a 6-player game of Keyflower. All of us played Keyflower, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it'll be on all of our lists. This is the one that I expected to be potentially, because it ended up being like a long game.
Yeah.
Drew had to leave halfway through, and then it was just like there was weirdness to it as well. And the back and forth of the bidding, I know you all found not as exciting as
No.
other things. I'm interested to see where it falls on other people's lists. Is it
Yeah.
your number 9?
No, it's actually my number 13.
Oh, that was
Sorry.
your number
I
13.
also
yeah.
put it at the very bottom.
So it's your least favorite.
It
There we
was,
go.
it was my least
Yeah.
favorite of we played.
Yeah.
And mainly like the thing that I really liked about it was like this really cool auction mechanic where like, okay, you commit your meeples to this and
Mhm.
somebody commits more, but you get to use your meeples and put them on another thing that you want so that you're not wasting the meeples that you commit to a thing.
Yeah.
I loved that about it. But ultimately it was just a really boring kind of this little boring German farming town or whatever. I'm like, who cares?
Not
like
boring.
going down the river, dull colors, even. Dull green, dull
Aggravating.
yellow.
Not
Sorry
boring,
if the
but
person who
aggravating.
made the people who made Keyflower are watching this. I just think it's a really dull, boring theme. Like, what can you do? It's just a little
Wow,
farm.
those
Who
are
cares?
fighting words.
I grew up on PEI. It's all farms. Like, give me something to dream about, folks. Come on.
Oh, to me, I thought it reminded me of Harvest Moon, and it's like one of
okay.
the
Yes.
only video games that I can actually do. So I was
Is
like,
it your
this
number
charming.
9 too?
No, I didn't put it that low. Actually,
Oh.
it was kind of like mid-range for me.
All right.
But I would say that the joint fact that you could only use things if you outbid each other,
Mhm.
and then the auction, there was too many times to be frustrated.
Right.
As much as I thought it was cute.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
So the double loss of control was annoying.
Yeah.
But I didn't hate it as much as you guys did.
Keyflower, I mean, like to put it in context, Keyflower, I think when I did my list of like top games, it's like my number 11 game of like ever. I think it's like so cool in terms of I just love the bidding, and I also love how it can scale between 2 and 6, and it
Mm.
and it
Yeah, it's
plays
impressive.
it plays like very similarly between all of those player counts
Cool.
too,
Yeah.
which I think like that's a really exciting game, is one that plays well at all of its player counts.
Yeah.
Which excites me about it. But yeah, totally understand. And also it was really long, and like
Yeah.
it was one of those plays. Like I also didn't necessarily like enjoy it that much because I could, everyone was kind of tired, and so like if I'm gonna be ranking plays on mine, it's gonna be lower for me too, because like that game, sometimes you can really love a game and you can play a game and you're like,
But
all right,
that's
it's a bit
one
lower.
specifically that I wanted to play again.
Yeah,
That
Mm.
I really feel like we should be reserving judgment because we didn't know the cards were coming.
that's fair.
and we couldn't pick like, okay, so I have all the people trading cards this time. How do I like that strategy?
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
There's so many resources we didn't get to try.
It does have a really hard learning curve for like especially new players, because you don't know what's going to come up in the summer tiles and then the
Yeah.
fall tiles, right?
Yeah.
And so it's hard to build that strategy.
Wait, so
for
if
sure.
Keyflower was not your number 9, what is your number 9?
The first one I put, there's two. I put Skull.
Skull.
Okay.
Number 9.
I don't
Nice.
generally like the games where you have to read other people too much. 'Cause
Yeah.
I find that frustrating. However, I have to retract that a little bit because where I placed Avalon doesn't follow that theory. But Skull, I think it's because you have to read someone for like the first tile and the second tile, and you have to go around, and it's like you're not reading them for one thing, you're reading them
Yeah.
for multiple things. I find that
Yeah.
overwhelming, and I can't tell.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
And there's less discussion because it's a faster pace versus Avalon. You actually have like the big group discourse.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Skull was at the bottom.
Skull's number 9.
But I've only played it once again. So
Nice. All right, so Keyflower 9, Skull 9, and then Pat, what was your number 9?
My number 9 was Endless Winter.
What?
I know. I played a lot of good games this summer.
Yeah.
I know.
What a
It's
guess.
crazy. I see it. I think it's crazy too. But
That
no,
is a
I
good
actually
guess,
there were other games that actually rated higher, and I enjoyed Endless Winter. So that just goes to show I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this summer of games. I think I put it there because it just felt like it was a little bit of a bunch of things and not enough depth in any one of those things. Like I love that you're buying all kinds of cool people and putting them in your deck. That's great. But then like, what do you actually do with them? Like the hunting is wonderful, and there is the little.
we all
I love the little kind of like, okay, you put your little hut down and now you control these 3 tiles, and that's wonderful too. But there just wasn't enough in either of those places. I would have rather that they had taken a couple of the mechanics in that game and made a really good game than to make a big kind of complex but like also shallow at the same time smorgasbord. You can choose the things you want to do, but you also couldn't just focus on one area. You really needed to spread your you need to spread out among the entire table. So that's why
It might also be a learning curve thing though, because I found by the time I understood what anything did, we were at the last phase and I couldn't actually go and dive into any of them.
Right.
So if I was to play it again, it might be a different story.
Yeah.
But yeah, Endless Winter was my number 9.
Number 9. All right. I'm sure we will get to Endless Winter a little bit higher up on some lists.
Mhm.
I found that one very similar.
Oh, I have
to,
opinions about that game.
Like Keyflower and Endless Winter, in my mind, are like the same sort of. So I'm
Like
surprised that
same
they
in
would be-
mechanics, but for me, experience very different.
It's because there's no people. That's all. That's the only difference.
Like I said, the only reason that was my number 9 is because I hated that rule and I couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
So therefore, it is number 9.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
That's my full reason.
All right, Zach, let's move on to number 8.
Okay, number 8, moving back to what you said, is Skull.
Mhm.
Skull is a fun game. What I really appreciate about Skull is that it's a very quick game.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the vibe. You need something that just the rounds kind of move really, really quickly. I actually really like the reading people of games. I find that the games that I enjoy the most and I excel at are the social games where
Mhm.
you're actually kind of forced to rely on the vibe of the room and the energy of what your fellow players are giving you. It's just a little bit lower because it was a little bit more simplistic in comparison to what everything else that we played. And it was a very easy game to figure out. I appreciated the pace of it, but it was just more simple in tone and in rule compared to everything else. And I mean, I appreciated that I won at that game the
Yeah, I was
first
gonna
time I
say.
played it.
Yeah, I think you had
But-
almost 100% win rate.
I did have almost an 100% win rate, so that was
The
key
gambles you took.
Yeah.
You're a
Yeah,
gambler.
and I
You're
usually
a
never
risk
lost a life either.
Yeah.
I usually always had all my lives,
You're
but
like,
it was just
nope, 9.
compared to everything
You're like,
else. Compared to everything else, it was just on the simpler side, so it
Yeah.
has to be lower on the list for that reason.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. It also kind of would fall in that sort of lower I think I like Skull. I just put out a review of it too. Like I'm trying to review the games, and I felt like it's such a hard one to rate because you can have some like really good experiences, but it's so player dependent too, right? If the group isn't going to buy in,
The group buys in.
then there's like no game. But if the group really buys in, it can be very exciting. But
Mhm.
because of that, it really fluctuates in terms of like what it can provide.
Yeah.
Right.
I like Skull because it's like you don't have to memorize the poker hands, but it's poker.
Yeah.
So like I love that for it.
Yeah.
You're like getting a group together to play poker sucks because you'll just talk about it forever, and then when you actually get to it, you're like I can't remember.
Yeah.
But Skull to me is everything that I get from poker.
What somebody also put on the review, they're like, "Don't tell anybody. It can just be played with a deck of cards. You could.
Literally.
You take
No,
three
literally,
black cards and 1 red card. You're just like, did
I played it with coasters at a
Yeah,
bar.
coasters at a bar.
Marked coasters.
Yeah, so you'd never really need to purchase it. I mean, it's like $20 if you wanted that design, that copy. But
Oh, the designs are beautiful.
the
on
design
those
is really
cards, I
nice.
will
Yeah,
say that.
yeah. Aryelle, what was your number 8?
Coup.
Coup?
Okay.
I couldn't even remember what it was. You guys
But it
just-
beat Skull.
It beat Skull. They were kind of
They were
tied,
close, but the official verdict is that it beat Skull.
yeah, I think because it had more characters and
Mhm.
more intrigue to it than Skull,
Mhm.
that rates it higher. I rated it low. Again, this might be an experience thing though, because I couldn't remember what any of the characters did fast enough. So we'd go around and I was just like, I don't know what to do. And then
Yeah.
there's the poker element of it, calling people out. I just feel like I didn't grasp it.
How many times did you end up playing Coup? Did you ever play at lunch with us, or was it the
No, I
only
played it
in your
once, and it was
apartment?
really
Yeah.
late at night, and I was already tired. So
Yeah.
my verdict is probably not accurate.
No, it's accurate for you and your experience. That's what this is.
But
Games
again, I
and
don't like the
rankings are
social reading
are
ones, so this is on
subjective,
track
right?
for me.
Yeah. That makes
Yeah.
sense. That's
She said what she said. She feels what she feels, and that's good enough for her.
I did like the artwork. I thought all the characters
Yes.
were beautiful.
Yeah,
I just, I wished I was better at making them do their magic.
that's fair.
So my number 8 was Food Chain Magnate. Okay, I rated it above Endless Winter because I think that so I was terrible, horrific at this game.
This is one myself, Drew, Pat, and April's partner.
Nice,
Henry played.
nice,
That's the one that we
nice.
played.
So it's like a very complex game, but it actually has really simple mechanics,
Mhm.
which is like really cool to see that. And like the way that it works is like you have these cards and you draft these cards from this massive deck, and you have a little menu of what you actually have available to you this round. And some of the cards say like, okay, this allows you to draft another card, which means hiring another worker. 'Cause
Yeah.
each card has a worker on it. And the worker can be a burger cook, or it can be like, a marketer, or it could be like a Zeppelin pilot eventually that's going to like market whatever you want to the entire board.
Yeah.
So it's like all these workers are just more opportunities. And the way that you draft them, you draft them and you put them in your hand, you see them all, and then you put them down to make this crazy pyramid structure for your corporate business. And I thought that
Pyramid scheme.
was it totally
Pyramid
Do you mean desert triangles?
I'm sorry, desert
Oh.
triangle. Exactly.
Yeah.
Desert
I
triangle.
understand now.
So that's why I loved playing it. So it was just so pleasurable to make this like
Mhm.
crazy pyramid and see every time you do it, you go down the chain and you make everything happen. I'm just terrible at it. And it was also a game that like, okay, you can tell somebody that's played it before,
Is going to just stomp
it's
you.
going to destroy you.
Yeah.
There are all these like things that you get for being the first to do something, and you're like, I don't know if this is better than this.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
They
what to
do.
go for, but they sure do. They know exactly what's good. So by the end, he was making like whatever he was making plus 50% for everything that he sold.
Yeah.
And those are like, I didn't even know that card was good. I couldn't even tell. So that's why I put
Yeah.
it so low, but I appreciated it. I just don't think I'll play it enough to get good at it, and I don't think I'll ever find enough people that will like seriously
Yeah.
consider playing it every week to all be as good as each other and then stomp.
I don't know. I think you've played enough games that if you played a second time, now that you've seen it in action, I feel like it would be drastic.
You've seen me played Inish though.
I
I lost terribly at Inish too, and I played that more than any. I just lose. I'm like great at just being terrible at a game that I know quite well.
Yeah, the cool thing about Food Chain Magnate is like you're creating a whole corporate like food chain empire.
Okay.
It's like you're selling your burgers and your pizza and your lemonade and your Coca-Cola, right? And every house on the board wants a different thing, but they only want a different thing. If you put a billboard next to their house that's like, "Hey, buy some burgers," they're like, "Oh, I will go buy some burgers."
Oh,
But every card that you get also can kind of it's a tech tree so that it can really level up into something else, into these better versions. And so you're trying to figure out which branching path are you going to take.
Okay,
and
got you.
Yeah, that's what really excited it to me, and I'm excited to play it more. It's a game that I now have, but I hadn't played yet. And so when Henry said he had it, I was like, yeah, teach us that, because that's great for me to know, because then I'll be able to do it. Cool. Number 8.
Yeah.
On to number 7.
Number 7 for me is Coup.
Coup. Nice.
Very similar reasons as to Skull. Very simplistic as far as the rules go. Again, I appreciated the fact that the rounds can move really quick. I played Coup a couple of times. I played it in my apartment. I joined in for a couple of the rounds that when we had our hour-long lunch break in between rehearsals, it was the perfect game, really, for us to just sit down there for an hour and just play a couple passing rounds with. You can drop and go as much as you please.
Yeah.
I appreciated it more than Skull because the rules were just a little bit more involved. Each of those characters have specific authentic tasks that you have to consider. I won a couple of times, so of course that made me really happy and upped my experience. But again, like there were just more games that I played this summer that were more involved and more complex, and I learned to appreciate the more complex games, like having somebody actually explain and allow me to understand it. So it's lower on the list because it's fun. It's a great passing game to play very rapidly, but it just doesn't compare to some of the more complex, more involved games for me.
That's fair. I think it's telling that Skull and Coup are right next to each other on both of your lists, because like for me, I'll always choose Coup over Skull.
Absolutely.
Because I love the complexity as well.
Yeah.
But if there's a group that isn't ready to learn all the rules and learn all the differences, that's where I think Skull can maybe slot in, right? Like in terms of it's a much easier bar for entry of Skull. But Coup, I just find I've played hundreds of games of Coup, in my lifetime, for sure, hundreds. And like, I'm still not sick of it because it's just got such a great interplay.
You can really pick it up and go at any time. And especially like if you have people who already know the rules, that's such a quick game. You just
100%.
Have a couple passes through and then put it down.
Yeah, there is another version of Coup. It's called Coup G54.
Oh, is it more complex?
It gives you 25 rolls. But you only
compared to how many in the original?
5. Whoa. But you only play with 5. So it's the same basic Coup, but it just gives you abilities to swap in and out those rolls.
Oh my.
I like it. I've gotten rid of it from my collection because I just want to play Coup.
It's too much?
It's
like it
too
gives
much.
too much.
And also too, then like every time you added a new roll, you're dealing again with that learning curve. So like in a game where like you need to know what the cards do in order to be able to bluff effectively.
Yes.
If you're always learning what the new cards do, I find that's one that like extra rolls don't serve the game as much as like just the base game.
Yeah,
kind of need to have everybody on the same page.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay, so that's exactly why I don't like Coup, because I didn't get a grasp of all the
For sure,
rules.
yeah, 100%,
Exactly what
right?
you
Yeah. Number 7, Aryelle?
It's not in order here, but I would put Werewolf next.
Okay, cool.
Just because of the time limit, I found it really restricted.
Specifically, one night Ultimate Werewolf. That's the one.
There was a time limit.
Yeah,
I forgot
5-minute time.
about that.
That drove me crazy, and the fact that unlike Avalon, things happen in the night and you don't know who you are. Like, it was pretty easy actually to trace back where things went, but I just found it unnecessary and annoying. So.
But it beat out Skull and Coup, kind of in that same genre. Why did you like it a little bit more? Or do you want to rearrange?
I think it's because the characters themselves were a little more similar. Like they didn't all have their own. I mean, they did have abilities, but they weren't abilities that kept coming. Like they do their thing in the night, and then you just have to figure out who's who. But there wasn't the whole calling people out, or maybe I just understood it a little.
Maybe
more.
maybe it just gelled. Yeah, we played it. We played it a bunch. We played a bunch of rounds, just like
so maybe I just had more
up the
time
complexity
with
over
it.
time. Yeah. My camera cuts off every 30 minutes, so that's why there's this weird jump. But Aryelle was just finishing One Night Werewolf. I think, too, maybe an interesting takeaway that I just thought of, and you can tell me if this is right or not, is because we were able to build up the different roles and the different complexity, right? We started with a lot of villagers and like just the robber, seer, and troublemaker.
True.
And then when we got comfortable with that, we're like, okay, now we'll throw this in. We'll throw this in. So having that ability to build in those things potentially made for a better learning experience.
Probably.
Yeah. That's my hypothesis. I don't know, just judging by what you...
Yeah, likely.
We'll say it's yes.
We'll say yes.
I put that at number 12 on my
One night?
list. It was my second last, just because I think, to me, playing a game with an app, it's a board game. I just want to play with people, and I don't like having an app that's involved in it and like all this stuff.
But it just does what
I know
I do.
it simplifies it. I know, but I like a person. I like in theater. I don't like a lot of sound and like light and stuff. I just like when actors just go off and do their thing, and I can admire the craft from that. And like I like when a game can just stand on its own and doesn't need all this stuff. I admire it for what it is. You can add all this complexity and stuff. But for me, it was just like, it just kind of feels like it's...
Now, what if I did the close your eyes, open your eyes, I said all that stuff, and we didn't have even an electronic timer, we had a sand timer?
I would like it even better, honestly.
You'd like it better?
Honestly,
that would make
I like lo-fi, but also I just thought...
I was about to say purity.
Is that why you do Shakespeare in the Park?
Exactly. I like it real. I'd do it in a cave if I could. But the thing is, like, I just thought that the shifting people in the night and all this stuff, like, I try to use some, like, once I learned what some of the roles were, I was like, oh, I shifted you in the night. And the person's like, no, you didn't. You're the liar. And then people ganged up on me, and I was there like, oh, I guess I didn't do
you
that very
really
well.
didn't like being ganged up on.
I didn't like being
Oh yeah,
ganged
that's
up on.
true.
It
Not
happened a couple
like
times.
that.
You
And
get
I was
ganged
there
up
like,
on quite
I don't know.
significantly,
If I'm a werewolf, I'm a bad werewolf. Like, I played too much Werewolves of Millershall.
That's fair.
It just felt
That's fair.
more of the same.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
If you
I
played a
get
lot
it.
of it, then yeah, for sure.
But
Cool.
I guess that's part of what I didn't like about it. If I'm gonna be a werewolf, I want to like do something as the werewolf. If
Right.
someone takes it away from me, I'm like, well,
Right.
what was the point of being a werewolf?
Yeah.
It's-
That's fair.
I want to be bad.
So now I don't even know what team I'm on because maybe
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
switched me and stuff.
That
Yeah.
ruined it for
I
me.
like that chaos and trying to figure that out.
Damn.
And then coming to the realization, oh no, I'm not a werewolf anymore. And then trying to, or like, oh shoot, I am a werewolf. And then like trying to communicate to your werewolf partner who's like, let's kill you. I'm like, I'm on your team.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
can present some funny moments.
Mhm.
Well, that's a very
But
unique
yeah.
thing about this game that I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Not enough to rate it higher.
But what was your number 7, Pat?
Number 7
That
was
takes
it was
really
Skull.
close over.
Yeah,
Skull?
it was Skull for the reasons said before.
Yeah.
It's like poker but simpler, and I just like how non-committal it is. You can pull it out, and in 10 minutes you've finished
Yeah.
the game. I love that.
Nice.
It's lovely. Yeah.
Great.
We're at
So then we're on to
number-
number 6.
Number 6. My number 6 was Werewolf. I'll just kind of like support
Yeah,
my
we'll-
peers here
that
in
makes
saying
sense.
that very similar reasons. And again, I really like those social games. I love reading the people around me. Again, I probably put it higher than. Well, I was going to say this is probably like I put it higher than Coup just because, again, there is a little bit more intricacy. It is a little bit more involved. I actually liked the app. I mean, I hear your point totally because I like the idea of keeping it centered in the room as well. But I liked the fact that you got to always have that. And I also liked the timer, now that you reminded me that there was a timer, because it actually forced the game to move
Mhm.
quickly, which I appreciated.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a fun social game. I liked all the rules. I liked all the intricacies of all the different roles you could be like bestowed with. There were just other social games that we played that rated much higher for me than this one.
Cool. Yeah, nice. Yeah, that makes sense. On to your number 6, Aryelle.
Well, I have them by category, so
I know I'm making you do it on the fly. I
yeah,
surprised you.
I think. Well, it was partly because I was struggling to make an order. I would probably put
Because you just had so much fun, right?
yes. It was all fun. No, really, truly. I would probably put Endless Winter next.
Number 6.
Yeah, for similar reasons as Pat, just because there was so much, and it all made sense at the end, but I didn't get a chance to delve into anything because there was just it almost felt like overly busy.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to remember. I want to ask this question once at the end, so remind me. Which is the game that you'd most want to play again?
Oh, yeah.
Like that, because that sort of
Mhm.
if that sort of shifts, right? Like
This is
yeah.
the one that usually comes to mind.
Yeah.
Actually.
that's what prompted my thought. But I'm curious if that'll change. We'll
Yeah.
revisit that once the lists are finished.
So
But yeah. Pat, number 6.
number 6 was Coup. Yep.
Yeah.
Just loved the different roles. Loved the coin thing was kind of fun. It's another game where people like obviously like they'll team up on you and then in one round you're dead. Like easy. Just so easy to do it. But like
We did team up on you in that one too, but it was better than Werewolf.
yeah, people just don't like playing with me because
I teamed up on
Yeah.
you every time. I
it's because I make this
Every
like
time.
I make this high pitched whining noise that you can't actually tell is in the room, but is there, and it really annoys you, and you just want to target the person that does it, and it's usually me doing that.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just
Oh,
I think I
is that
got
why
feeling
dogs
once
love
it
you?
kind of what's it, yeah that's what dogs love.
Dogs.
Me.
Yeah.
They just hear my
'Cause they
pitched
go-
whining noise.
You know, some positives, some negatives.
legit. Yeah.
That's funny. That's really cool to me that Skull and Coup were back to back on everyone's list. And it's
Everyone-
always the same order.
Mhm.
Totally.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Coup. I mean, Coup's just. I just love Coup. Yeah. All right. Enough about Coup. We talked about enough.
Yeah.
We can move on to number 5.
Number 5. My number 5 was City of the Great Machine.
Nice.
This kind of brings me into this new version of my list where it's more of those games where it's a board in front of you and it's involved and there's
Yeah.
all of these different facets of how you can win and how you can garner yourself points. This game was really cruel because when cruel.
It was cruel.
It was
Cruel.
cruel.
I was
yeah.
It was cruel, but it was also very cool because you were the machine when
I
we
was,
played,
yeah.
and the 3 of us were all on a team trying to overthrow the machine.
Yeah.
And it was really, really cool to work together as a team while like overthrowing or conquering like one common enemy. Again, there were just for me other games that had that similar expansiveness as far as rules, as far as ways to garner points, as well as facets on the game board that for me just ranked higher. This game was fun. I would want to play it again. I would love to try being the machine because of all the powers that you got specifically.
Yeah.
If I were to play again, that's probably the role that I would want to fill.
Yeah.
But it was really fun. There were other games that just on the overall experience rated higher for me.
And this was also this was our first one that we really played as like a group.
Yeah.
Yes.
As we like to kick it off. So we had a day of City of the Great Machine and Endless Winter, and I was just like, oh, what a lovely day.
We all went home and
When
were
we
like,
all
oh my
left,
god,
I
we're
was
tired.
like, this was so much fun. This was the best.
It was my brain fried that day? Yes. But was it beyond fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed City of the Great Machine too. I'm excited to play that again from the other side too.
Yeah.
I just loved listening to you three talk and try to communicate without communicating. I thought that was so fun just to watch. Yeah, Aryelle, what's your number 5?
Keyflower.
Nice. Oh yeah,
Oh,
hit the middle ground.
I
forgot that it was still on your list because everybody was
didn't like it.
So
but
Again,
but yeah,
I think that's cute. And I liked it more than Endless Winter just because it had a little bit less things, just less areas, and it just felt a little easier to understand. Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they belong side by side in my brain.
Nice, but better than Endless Winter.
Better than Endless Winter. Also, Endless Winter is just a cold world. It's called Endless Winter. Keyflower's like,
You felt, ooh, bird, cold
there's some
bird.
grass.
Oh, you
There's
felt the grass. You
there's,
felt that.
It's quaint. It's inviting.
A cottage.
Nice.
Greatest
So-
game on earth to Aryelle is what it is. Nice and warm.
Aesthetically, I'm like, I want to go live here for a month.
This
So,
is ideal.
That has nothing to do with the game, but
No, I mean it all
Factor
informs
in.
it. I remember Pat saying like, "Oh man, that was dry and bland." Like after it, and he's like, "Oh, that's dry and bland Euro themes." You know what I mean?
I
I was
would say
like-
Keyflower just needs a little dorky music to go along in the background.
That's true. We should have had the Harvest Moon soundtrack playing or
Yeah.
Stardew Valley.
Dorky, exactly. Dorky, like windfaring
Like wheels.
German immigrants
Wheels
coming to the
on.
new world and enjoying their new farm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was charming.
Nice, Keyflower. I'm glad Keyflower is up there for you,
Yeah.
Aryelle. I'm glad it stomped out the pathetic werewolves and the skulls.
Yeah.
It's the one game where like auctioning was.
Yeah.
No, I love it for
I
you.
thought it
That's the whole
frustrating.
point
Yeah,
of this
yeah,
different
that's the whole point.
experience.
Yeah, I usually don't like that kind of thing, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Number 5 for you.
Number 5 for me was Dune Imperium. So this is one that we played.
This was after Keyflower.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Were you in that one?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was you,
Aryelle
me,
played
Rachel, and
Rachel,
Chris,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I really admire I love worker placement and just like how many places there were to put workers was so crunchy. The fact that you only have 2 workers in that game, unless you buy one and then get a mentat, you can have 4 workers at one point.
Mhm.
I just love that, and like the drafting to me was really really fun. But then I realized later in the game, like okay, the drafting didn't end up being like the
Like,
deck building.
The
Sorry.
open, the card market.
Didn't end up being as consequential as I thought it would, because you don't see those cards very often, especially if you load your deck like I did early on, and then you just barely see the cards again. So that's why it's not like higher, but I think there's also many opportunities for analysis paralysis in that game, because we were quite close for quite a long time, so
Yeah.
every decision felt like it mattered. But I love the theme, and Dune is like one of the greatest like sci-fi novels ever written, and like I just think it works so well with that theme, and that many of the cards really did actually like Paul being able to look at the top card of the deck, like that's fantastic, and like the Baron having these like
secret influences.
secret
Yeah.
influences that you don't know about until he actually commits a huge amount of troops to the battlefield, and like it was just wonderful for that, and so for all those reasons, I placed it at number 5. But I could see myself playing it again. I think that's the one that I want to play the most
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
because I've considered getting it just for that reason.
Yeah, it was apparently it's got a decent solo mode. There's just an Automa deck. You
Oh.
use it to even at a 2-player game. There's like a deck of cards that will block spaces on the board, so that like it simulates there being more presence.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
Covering things, which is kind of neat. It was a very long game of Dune Imperium. There was some analysis paralysis. by the fourth member who's playing.
I got some too. I did get some. Every so often it comes my
Maybe we all
turn. I
got
wasn't
some at
quite
some
ready.
It was a 4-hour game of Dune Imperium. Sound off in the comments
4
Just-
hours.
about
No.
how absurd that is. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Let's move on.
We love the person in question who had the analysis.
We
Love
do.
it.
We do. We do.
Lovely human, just timing needed some time.
Yep, little time. If we could just stop time a little bit for, sometimes I wish you had a little time turn.
Time was frozen.
No, we do. Yeah, we do love her desperately.
I would mess with the continuum for Rachel to be able to play
Yeah,
with her again.
yeah. No, it was
Take that
great.
risk.
It was still fun. But it did drag, and I think
Yeah.
I feel with that one, if the pace is up, then it's like, then it really like helps
Mhm.
accentuate that sort of experience. All right, on to the top four.
Okay, we're in the top part of the list.
Over 50%
Okay.
now.
So my number 4 is Chris's favorite game, Rising Sun.
Okay.
I really, really liked this game. The reason why it's at number 4 on my list is because, one, I felt for me it was easily the most complex of the games that we played.
Cool.
Getting myself wrapped around the rules was like so difficult.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
to mention that you then have a very specialized player that you are playing as, that you
Yeah.
have to frame the game in, while also remembering all of the other people in the game who are also being very specialized people with very different powers as well. This game also sucked for me because I created an alliance with Patrick in the first turn, thinking I'm gonna dare to be different. I'm not gonna slight Patrick in this game. I said we're gonna collaborate. We're going to work together. We're going to make sure that our roles complement one another. And I got shafted big time in
That's
that
true.
first turn.
That's true.
Which was brutal for me. Plus, I didn't understand the rules in the first turn.
Yeah,
So, and Pat knew that, so he used it to my advantage probably. And then I spent the rest of the game just making sure that you absolutely did not win. And that happened. We ended up quite literally tying
Yeah.
in points, and I only won over Patrick because of the honor system.
Yeah. Yeah.
But which again, I still won. So, but
Drag me down in that mud pit with you.
yeah,
as
I was
far as you could.
upset.
Well, it's true, and also
And then it was hard to know
Yeah.
what to value in
Yeah.
that game.
Yeah.
Like, what is the thing that you can value that will actually garner the most amount of
Yeah.
points? That was the thing for me that I think that's why it was lower on my list, because I was like, I didn't feel like I was able to really see my win strategy until the latter half of the game,
Yeah.
which is why that would be the game I'd want to play the most
Right.
again, because I was like,
Yeah.
I want to know all these different specialized characters, and I want to know what the win strategy for each one is.
yeah.
Yeah.
And no matter what I appreciate about that game as well, is no matter any time you play it, it will be a different experience no matter what. And
It
I
really
really
is.
value it.
Yeah.
I value that about Rising Sun specifically.
Mhm.
So it's midway on my list because I have room to grow,
Mhm.
but I also have a lot of things I appreciate about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, like we said at the beginning, it's all good experiences, right?
Mhm.
Like I think making top 4 is really good.
Yeah.
So don't worry, Rising Sun. You're okay. I love you.
But that comment resonates with me for Keyflower and Endless Winter and even Dune. You can do all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, you're like, okay, why? What points is it actually going to give me?
Yeah.
And it was only like halfway through any of the games that I was like,
Oh,
I
this
should
is
be
it.
focusing
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
because X is like,
Yeah. That's also the tough thing too about me. Knowing I wanted to make this video and wanting to get you all to play different games instead of the same ones.
Yeah. We picked 5 awesome games and just
And-
played them.
and justify bringing like 20 games here to. I was like, I brought them all. We're playing different ones.
I swear to God, every time that a group met, Chris would come with this gigantic cube of games.
on
Some of
And
which we still
hold
haven't
on,
played. Last
yes,
word.
a
just for
gigantic cube of games in a container in a bag that compared to one that a pizza delivery person
you.
has.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it was
You're
like
throwing
you
a
were
party.
coming to this party with 20 pizzas, but instead it was 20 board games. Literally, this
Yeah.
big old green bag. I'm sure they've seen it on.
Yeah.
Which
for
would be a
sure.
good idea for a business.
Yeah.
You're throwing a party. Oh shoot, we need games. Well, you call up the board game
Call
cafe
the
and they
board
send Chris with
They'll
this
send
big
it.
bag, and he actually curates the game night for you.
I think the key to that is that most people who would want that already have like giant
Sure.
shells behind them. To
Sure.
And they're subscribed to this channel, probably.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. All right, Aryelle, number 4.
The Great Machine.
Nice.
I really liked it.
Mhm.
Partly, I just thought the artwork was beautiful, to be honest.
Mhm. It's a
And-
cool world. It's a really
Yeah,
cool
is it
world.
steampunk?
It's
Is that
steampunk,
the
yeah,
right-
yeah.
So that's really awesome, and I loved being on the team and plotting and like trying to be secretive. I thought that was fun, and like being able to oh, instead of being in 3 different places, we're all gonna be in one. Haha, got you. Like that was fun. I don't know if I'd want to be the machine. I feel maybe I don't understand exactly what the machine can do because I wasn't paying attention to that role. But yeah, I just thought it was fun and it didn't take too long.
Yeah.
It felt like the stakes were high all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's cool that you said it didn't take too long because I think it took us like 4 hours, but it flew. I felt like it flew by.
Yeah, we
Oh,
played a
it
lot
didn't-
long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it?
Were you
I don't think it
that
took 4.
No, I think from like
Yeah.
arrival to when we packed up, it was
Yeah.
4. So that's like chatting,
Yeah.
whatever. So probably 3. Let's say 3.
I put it at number 10 on my list.
Oh,
City's
really?
Great Machine.
Yeah, I don't know why I put it at number 10. I think I'm not a steampunk person. I don't
Oh,
think the
really?
theme did much for me. I just thought it was kind of drab.
There was too much technology in there.
You know what?
The
Honestly,
promise
I
of too
might, be
much
the, I might be the board game Luddite. It's like I like natural themes.
It wasn't pure enough.
Except
Yeah,
Keyflower.
yeah.
Except Dune Imperium. That's like the most complicated. Like okay, explain the Spacing Guild to like someone that's never heard.
Yeah,
It. Like
yeah.
that's complicated. But like I don't know. I thought City of the Great Machine was fun, but I still put it at number 10. I don't know. I felt like there wasn't enough for me to. It was a kind of game that I've never played before, and so maybe the acquired taste of like okay,
And
it's all
because you're on
working
a
against
team,
you.
right? Like
You're on a
versus your own
team.
agency.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I've done co-op games before, but it has nothing to do with pandemic. But
Mhm.
it kind of you're moving around, but you're also trying to like do it covertly.
It's kind of like a hide and seek game,
Mhm.
almost,
it's a total
right?
hide and seek. Yeah, I wasn't prepared for that. And then when it happened, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's what this game is.
Yeah.
Wait, so what is your number 4 then? if
My
it's
number
not
4 is Wavelength. Just because
Nice.
it's such a fun group game.
Nice.
Get everyone together. Aryelle's mom came and played.
Yeah.
I
We all
realized
had-
I don't know anything about my mom.
Yeah, we didn't know anything about her either, but we
Her
guessed her
opinions
pretty
are way not
well
my mom.
compared to Aryelle. Yeah, it was like all at once we were all trying to guess Aryelle's mother's opinion of Justin Trudeau. Like,
Yeah.
is he harmful or harmless? Like, I don't know. So all of us were trying to
room was
psychoanalyze.
divided.
It was tense.
And of
It
course,
was
as their
tense.
family member, you get
Yeah.
a little bit of Trump, not Trump, but veto power.
Oh,
yeah.
Listen,
No,
what you
no,
trying
no,
to say?
I was like, wait a minute.
No.
What does your mom think about?
No.
Literally, we were there going,
yeah.
okay, Aryelle's mom is a doctor. Okay, so she's relatively well off, and generally they vote in this way, and like, but being a doctor, maybe the medical healthcare system
Yeah.
is something that's at the top of her mind. So how's he doing, Mel?
Mhm.
Oh, but that's not a federal concern. That's a provincial.
Yeah.
We're-
But I've
everyone is
only
like,
ever
I
heard her
don't
say
know.
shit about this person. So
Oh, it's
yeah.
fantastic.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, Wavelength is so solid. Wavelength
Yeah.
has killed code names for me, like
Mhm.
because it just the reason. Have you played code names before? Have either of you played?
I
Codenames?
feel like I have.
It's the one with all the words out there.
Yes,
giving
I have.
clues. Yeah, for me, I love that. Like code names, you have to wait till the end of the round to have that discussion. This every time you say, "Oh, what were you thinking?"
Yeah.
and it really promotes that discussion a lot
Totally.
more. And that's
Yeah.
like the distinction for me. That like it just creates that conversation. You don't have to
Yeah.
wait to have that conversation. You can just have the conversation after the round.
And I love that even on your opponent's turn, you have an opportunity to
Mhm.
make the steal. It just feels like no matter where you are in that game,
Yeah.
there's never idle time because
Yeah.
you're always thinking about what that person thought.
Yeah.
And if you are the person who did think, you're just there clamming up, just trying not to make it obvious that your
Mhm.
team is saying the stupidest thing you've ever heard anyone ever say.
Yeah.
How could you dare say that about me?
Yeah.
We've talked about this over and over. I love that.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one. All right, Zach, number 3, the
Um,
podium on the podium.
on the podium, my bronze, literally following directly from you.
Yeah.
Wavelength. Of all of the simple games we played, easily my favorite.
Cool.
For all the reasons that you just expressed, but the one
Yeah.
that I really want to like hammer home is just the fact that like you really get to know people in
Yeah.
that game, and
Yeah.
you get to have like these conversations about things that you wouldn't necessarily have if it weren't for this game, and you get to hear like very specific opinions about people. Like for example, like dog person or cat person, and like there are people in the room who like obviously know what those answers are, and then people who don't. I really loved that because I felt like it was the kind of game that was really accessible for any age group,
Mhm.
was really accessible for anybody with varying knowledge of board games.
Yeah.
I was like, what I could see myself buying that game and then going to like a holiday gathering with like
Yeah.
30 people, and that's the game I'm pulling out that's
Yeah.
bringing the whole room together. That's what I loved about that. It was a very big community kind of experience, and you got to hear everybody say different things. The one thing that I will say was a challenge for me in that game is because I really like to talk. So when it came to my
Yes.
turn
Yeah.
to set the wavelength and you can't give your team any hints as to what I like to talk, so that, like when you
Yeah.
couldn't talk
Yeah,
anymore, that
exactly.
was a
We
challenge
need
for
to put
me.
a bag over your head.
Yeah,
She got disqualified
I did.
because she was like, okay, dog name or cat name? Buddy, remember that dog that I've never met a cat named Buddy.
Yes.
And we're like, you're the one giving the
I really wanted the
Okay,
point.
but think about the name Buddy.
Okay.
Dog or cat?
But when you're the one setting the wavelength, it genuinely is excruciating, though, because you want the people around you to actually get it right, because you're doing so much work by like off. Okay, because then
So you said everything but pointing
Okay.
to the place.
Yes,
where it
okay,
was.
And
but-
she almost went to do that too.
Like-
She was like, and we're like, okay, Zach, you
I
gotta-
will
you
say
gotta
the
be
one round that I got where I actually followed the rules and I shut up and I didn't do anything was
Yeah.
very interesting.
That was
because
a good one.
We were talking about people,
Yeah.
somebody who's done like somebody who it was like celebrities. We were talking
Yeah.
about celebrities
Yeah,
and like who it is, like
It was
where
good
they fall.
person, bad person.
Yeah, where they fall on the Richter scale of good and bad. And I offered Oprah Winfrey, and then that launched us into a discussion. And I was like, oh, yeah. And especially when you're in a room with actors, everything I will say on my top 3 were games that I appreciated being in a room with actors
Mhm.
specifically, because we are just very impassioned people. And it came out in this game, and I loved to see that it was like we're playing a game, but I'm also getting to know aspects of who you are at the
Yeah.
same time. So easily my bronze. My favorite of the simple games
Cool.
we played.
Cool, nice.
Hmm.
Aryelle, what's your number
Bronze
3?
was Dune.
Dune, nice.
Yeah, because while it's similar to like Keyflower and Endless Winter in a sense, at least in my brain.
Yeah, worker placement, right? That's
Yeah.
the mechanic behind it is you have a worker you put in there.
Yeah,
and you get
I got
stuff.
to the point where I understood it enough, where and I got clued in. I was like, oh yeah, I have to do it for a reason. Points. What am I going to get points from? And then I actually started like catching up to people. I
Yeah,
was like
yeah,
trailing
yeah.
behind for a long time, and then it clicked. So I like that, and I just like sci-fi in general, so I'm a little biased.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Dude, number 3. Pat, what was your bronze?
Okay, my bronze was Inish.
Yes!
Honestly, I went in bronze with
This
Inish
was
being my favorite
previously
game.
your favorite game.
This is previously
now
my
no
favorite game.
longer.
Well, no, it still could be the
It's
favorite
still,
game.
like,
It's
I'm
just in
talking
terms of,
about
like plays and
experience
experiences.
versus like
Okay.
mechanics and
Yeah.
stuff. I just like for the one game that we had, it didn't go perfectly well.
Mhm.
It
Yeah,
was-
Josh and I fought a lot.
there was some real fighting, like real like, fighting.
Yeah, our friendship almost ended.
and it was it was this like
What happens when you betray your alliance?
It
You
was
betray
another
our
alliance thing, right? It's like, which is a game you do not make alliances in because you know you'll get betrayed, and they
Yeah.
still made stupid alliances. But for me, it was just like, okay, like I was kind of getting into it, being like, okay, I love that you draft these cards and you know that you're giving away this action to somebody else. It's not just that you want to do this action; it's that you don't want to do this action, or you want to deny this person this action. So you might not take the thing you want because you know that you have to, not give them this card because you don't want them to invade you. Like it's that stuff, or like,
Mhm.
and I think the modular board to me is like, just so gorgeous.
Yeah.
Everything about that game is gorgeous, and the cards to me also that it's not that complicated to learn. Just a couple of fiddly rules about like the win conditions, like making sure that everybody remembers what those rules are. Also combat, like remembering that those epic tail cards have to be done. It's those are an option too. That's all the weeds, but ultimately Inish is still one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
Just this experience was not one of the best that I've had playing that game, but I still love it, and it's still wonderful, and everyone should play it at least once because it's the best little
Nice.
dudes on a map game, I think. Apart from another one on the list.
I think that's it, right? Like I know our kind of ran a little bit long, and like Renee wasn't as active a participant in it as like she could have been. She wasn't like, I think she got thrown, and
Not
like Josh
you
and I were
throwing your
fighting.
partner under the bus.
Well, I mean, it's true.
On the channel.
She's not gonna watch it.
She's not gonna watch it.
But
We know this to be
yeah, I
true.
can say whatever I want. I do 3 videos a week.
Yeah.
She doesn't. She can't keep up.
This will be Exhibit A group therapy in about 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed playing Inish as well, but I understand that all those comments, right? You have ebbs and flows. You have that with games.
Yeah.
I've had that with Rising Sun, like when I've been tired and not like invested in it.
Yeah.
Right? Like it doesn't change your feeling about it. It's just like, oh, that one didn't hit as like your expectations are also so
Yes,
high for
absolutely.
the things. And even when it's just like here, it's like, dang, I wanted it to be here.
Totally.
Right? Like, so I totally get that in terms of, And it's more exciting for this list to be representative of that, right? Because
Yeah.
your favorite game's Inish, it's like, okay, my number one's Inish, I love Inish.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, I think it's a more interesting like way to frame it. Like for my plays, Rising Sun won't be number one on my list. I don't know where it's going to be. It was still a great game, but I know something else will probably be higher.
Yeah.
City of the Great Machine honestly might be higher because I really enjoyed that. Yeah, but I'll make my list later. We're on to your number 2, Zach.
Okay, so my silver medal goes to Endless Winter.
There it is.
Really?
I fucking loved that game. I really did. I
Awesome.
loved that game. I loved the production value.
Oh, yeah.
I loved the artwork.
Mhm.
I loved that it seemed that the conception of the game really kind of lined up like within real world ideas of what those characters would be.
Cool.
I really liked the idea that there were so many different ways you had to split yourself among the board. I found that it was, well, one, it was explained very well to me, but I found that like by at least the first round, because I remember in my first round I had made some grave mistakes on my turn, and then I learned what the rules were. I learned what the world of this game was, and I actually ended up getting myself placed on all aspects of the board.
You were dominating for like
really enjoyed that game. I thought that it was really fun. I understood it. I loved that your turn was so faceted and you could do so many different things. That was also the one where you had all those beautiful painted figurines.
I
Right?
know Rising Sun
Was that Rising Sun?
Yeah, Rising
okay,
Sun.
so I'm confusing that.
The other Zach, who viewers of Room and Board may have seen, Zach Groombridge, who has been on the channel, he painted all of those.
Yes, and did an incredible job doing it. So, like, shout out to you, Zach. Greatness in the name. But I really enjoyed. I really, really loved that game. I had so much fun. I will say I did not win, and the only reason I did not win is because I did not value hunting as much as the rest of the 3 of my peers did. Had I done that, I would have easily cleaned that game because I was on the board everywhere where I needed to be, and I was just especially on. I loved that game. I loved the whole experience of it, and I would definitely like buy that game for myself to teach to people. I just really, really fucking loved it. It was just easily so much fun. Silver medal.
Meet or defeat.
That's what I'll say. Meet or defeat. Tools or drools. That's what I'll say. One question I do want to ask you, Zach, is that I know a lot of the mechanics in Endless Winter were new to you, right? Like deck building, action selecting, like that sort of thing. Do you think that like for a new player, it didn't seem like it was that. In terms of how overwhelming was it? Because when I was teaching it, I was like, oh, shoot, maybe I shouldn't have picked this one because there are all these sorts of new things. And I was like, maybe I should have added in building blocks in terms of like learning those things in a core way first before approaching
Okay, good question. Here's my answer. What I'll say is that we played the City of the Great Machine
first
prior to that game. So I think for me, I understood that game so well because my brain was already in puzzle mode.
Got it.
So I think City of the Great Machine really lent well into going into Endless Winter, which was a little bit more involved, a little bit more complex. So because I knew that I had to puzzle myself around this board already, I understood it. So I think, to your point, I think giving people, if that were to be the game that you were to lead with, if you were to give people building blocks of understanding, then I think it would come very, very clear to them. I think it came clear to me because my brain was already in that space, thanks to City of the Great Machine.
Cool. That's neat. Yeah, I was just wondering because I remember teaching that and being like, oh yeah, I have to explain this. And I was like, oh yeah, both Zach and Aryelle have never played a deck builder before, right? And so like just explaining the core concepts behind.
Good thing to ask because I found Dune had that same element, but it was easier to grasp. Like, the direct application of the cards to the game. Right. Where Endless Winter, there's just so many options of cards and you don't know how they're useful. Or maybe I understood Dune better because I played Endless Winter first, so I'm not sure.
Could be, but I also think like Dune Imperium has 2 things going for it. It's the deck building and some worker placement, right? In Endless Winter, you kind of have that, but you also have the area control side. You also have the set collection of the hunting. You have also like this and this, right? So I think Dune is easier to learn because it has less going on, right? I think it takes less to like capture onto what do these things do, right? All right, what's your number 2, Aryelle? Silver medal.
Avalon. And this is notable because the first time I played Avalon, I hated it.
You hated
You
it.
did, yeah.
I
You really
Aryelle
hated it.
came home and we talked about how much you hated that game.
Yes.
We
And-
talked about it like for 30
Yeah, and
minutes.
people would whip it out at the end of Resolutes after
Yeah, after
shows,
show.
and I would groan
Yeah.
audibly like, guys, no, we have to, fine, give me a card. And then it started to make sense.
What changed? What changed?
I think I started to understand what the purpose of the voting was.
Mm.
For a while we would do it, and I was like, why are we voting? How does this give us any information?
Yeah,
And then it started to actually make
kind of
sense.
click in.
And then like I love being a bad person and just like poking holes in people's logic. Like,
Yeah.
no, you don't know that. No, you don't know that. It could be this person, and just like
Yeah.
you just have so much control.
Nice.
So
And you've been bad
I've
more
been
than
bad
you've been
mostly.
good.
Oh yeah, you've been bad.
That's crazy.
and I've only been
Yeah.
good recently, and I was Merlin. So again, I was just like
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
So I like how much conversation it ends up bringing
Yeah.
up, and what else? And it can take a long time, but it's because it's so conversational. It's not boring.
Yeah.
So
It can take a lot. Like it takes a long time. I think because we're all kind of talkative people, right?
yeah.
And I think like you
Yeah.
want to have a social group for that.
Mm.
I absolutely love it for all the reasons
Mhm.
why you said. It's so fun because literally every time Aryelle would go, well, I don't want to stop hanging out, so yeah, fine. I won't be the one to say no to the group. I'll do it. But then I'm like, okay, we play Avalon, and then it shifted. I was like, well, we don't have to do it. And I was like, no,
It's fine.
I think I'm
It's fine. We'll do
I think
it.
I'm starting to get it.
And then it was my birthday.
And then it's her
Playing
birthday.
Avalon.
She's like, okay, when are we playing Avalon? We're playing it now.
And then I left that party, and
And
it
we
was
played
like
another
game. Played another
almost
game.
2 a.m.
It was like
They played
2:30.
another game.
Yeah.
We played another game
Yeah.
and then everybody left at like almost
Like
4 in the
3:30,
morning.
yeah,
Yeah,
3:30,
it was
3:30.
nuts.
Yeah.
I
And
love
it's
that.
not-
I love how transformed you've been by this
Yes.
game.
And I've also learned I have a poker face.
Yeah.
Which I'm like,
There you
I have a
go.
poker face?
Yes.
Badass.
Yeah.
Use it wisely, bitch.
Yes, you
Use it
do.
wisely.
Yeah, the last game we played, I said it was a 5-player game. I was bad. We were trying to kill Merlin, and I said, okay, well, Merlin's either Michael or Zach. It's got to be two of them. If it's Aryelle, we've already lost. And then Aryelle was like, yeah, Aryelle was Merlin. And I was just like, no
But
clue.
you called it out for a voting thing that I did, and I did it on purpose.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You were
That
like,
was the
you
reason.
voted for this.
I was like,
That
because
makes
she
no
voted
sense.
here.
I was like, I
You're
know.
like, that's why I did it. Now I know what the voting is. That's why I did. Yeah, it was great. It was a great
Yeah.
play. So I was like, for sure, it's not Aryelle
But-
because of that thing.
Avalon is the game we played the most. So
True.
this might
Yeah.
be a learning curve thing that I finally get it. So it's ranking high,
Yeah.
but it might have an advantage.
Yeah.
Unfair advantage, perhaps.
Pat,
Okay, this is number 2. Silver goes to Rising Sun.
Nice.
Yeah, Rising Sun was awesome, and like, sure, it's complex, but like, ultimately, it all
And it
comes
beat
down.
Inish, baby.
It beat Inish, it really did. It comes
It was
down
a
to
good
that.
game. It was a fun game.
When you're fighting over these provinces, or these prefectures, I can't remember what they were.
Also, weren't
Yeah.
you the Sun Clan in that game?
Yeah.
I played Sun, and
Ugh.
I sped ahead. in
So
the first-
annoying.
I won 5 of those 6 prefectures
in the first season.
yeah,
When
first
he
season,
betrayed
and then
me.
I've never seen somebody have such a dominant lead.
And then
as
he's probably
Pat
never
did.
seen someone have such a dominant lead and then fall from grace so spectacularly. Like,
Well, but
like,
literally
just-
all 3 of us had to team up against you.
Well,
to
Yeah,
because
try
you
and have
also
like-
broke
yeah,
your alliance with me and poked the bear, and
You
the
know.
bear had to bite back.
poke the bear,
And it was
bear will
upsetting.
kill you. But no, I think just like ultimately, like all the complexity of that game aside, like it comes down to those coins and putting them behind that screen and how good
Yes.
it feels to
Yes.
vote for to be bidding
Yes.
secretly on what you're actually going to do after having talked a big game about what you actually want, and then oh no, we're all gonna and then just run away with these incredible points that you never even saw coming because you all just want this territory that I don't even need because I already have it.
And that we're
Like,
never,
oh,
and
fuck.
that we're never gonna let you get ever
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. There's just so many ways that you can win, and those big monsters are just so great. Like you have all these crazy, massive,
Mhm.
insane-looking things. Those like
again. It was a triumphant
You know.
yet tragic first turn. to you.
totally.
Yeah.
There was a
Pat dominated
beautiful
the
story.
board. Like, yeah, a beautiful story. That's also what
Oh
I
my
love.
God.
That's a great way of
Yeah,
describing it.
it was what is it? Genesis. It was like in the beginning there was this all powerful God, and then in the end,
the book. Sorry.
absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Ultimately, and in the end, there is no garden. There is no world.
Yeah, Pat's faith was shattered. Pat used to be a devout.
just failure. Yeah, truly.
What you trying to say over there?
Yeah, it was a wild game, and it had such great swings. And I'm just really glad that you two enjoyed it. I think, yeah, I know Rachel enjoyed it too. That was a really solid game. Lots of back and forth.
Yeah,
I've never seen the Sun Clan like get so many times. Like Pat got so many points too in the first round. Not only did Pat win like 5 War Province tokens, but Pat also had like 15 or so points compared to our nothing because he tied every single harvest. He like made so many ties.
Yeah.
It was one of the most beautiful first seasons to ever happen. And I went, oh no. We got to tear that
you
down.
were very impressed. I remember Chris George this day. You were like, you were like, as a game board aficionado, you like had to give Pat his roses, which I appreciated about you because like strategically it was a lovely turn. Yeah. But also the player in you was devastated.
I know. I was stressed.
Devastated, angry, horrified.
So scared. Yeah.
And then Chris won.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the game, baby.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, so that was Rising Sun. I feel like I've kept track enough, so we're gonna go to Aryelle first for number one, and then I think we have a joint number one. If I've kept track.
Okay.
Enough.
Yeah, sure. I love Wavelength.
Wavelength number one.
Yeah, for all the reasons already mentioned. I just find you learn so much about everybody, whether it's the person who's putting in the clues or all your friends who are trying to debate with you. It feels like a bonding game.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah, it's just like for everything that we talked about.
And it's fun and it's like
I would buy that game.
Yeah,
same.
I would buy it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Don't need to rehash.
That's a great number one. Yeah. Also, two like good group games too as your number 1 and 2 as well.
Yeah.
Hit very differently depending on the group.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you have both of those, you have a potential of like covering varied groups, right? I don't think there's a group out there that couldn't enjoy one of those games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You choose either or.
And I feel like Wavelength is easier to immediately enjoy. Avalon, like you might not get it the first time.
Yeah.
Which can frustrate people.
For sure.
For non-gamers, Wavelength would be it.
Yeah.
Like, I have Wavelength, and I have never played it at a Christmas because like my family's not really.
Yeah, you can jump from Mousetrap to Wavelength.
But I could get my family to play Wavelength. Yeah.
For sure.
That's it. You find a way to do that. You invent something that like I can get my mom to like sit down and play, or my dad to sit down and play a game with me. You've done something incredible. Yeah, that's a rare
and
thing.
Learn something new about them in the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. So that's a great number one. And then number one, Zach, and you'll tell me if it's the same one or else it was
Do you want to guess
neglected from your list.
My number one is.
I mean, you haven't said Avalon yet.
Because it's my number one, baby!
Yeah, it's Avalon.
It's my number one on this list!
Joint number one and then number two.
Okay.
Yeah, it's high up there.
Yeah, like easily, I'm sure nobody I knew that Avalon was going to be high up for everybody. My reasons. The game I played the most this summer, I played 4 games of Avalon. Every time I played Avalon, I was something different. Every single time.
Yeah.
I loved that game because of the social game that it offered. Earlier, I said that there were certain games that I just really valued playing with impassioned actors, and Avalon was one of them. Because within moments of playing this game, people had narratives, people were blaming each other, friendships were severed. I was being screamed at across the table by Rachel for 40 minutes in one game. Like, it was just... April.
Not Rachel.
No, Rachel.
In the first game.
Yeah, in the first game, when we were playing in the studio, Rachel literally screamed at me for 40 minutes in that game. But it was wild. I loved the social aspect of that game. Yes, the voting was important. I really never paid attention to the voting when I actually did. I would just it was one of those games where you have to really rely on what the information around the table is. And I found that I was really, really great in that social aspect of it and like deciding how to like play and move forward. It was also great because in the second game, I was bad, you were good, and I was sitting right next to you. And I managed to like ride your coattails
I thought you were
for
Merlin.
the entire game.
I thought she was Merlin. And I was like, this is
managed
the way. And
I managed to ride your coattails
she's not Merlin.
for the entire game until I finally tricked you and you figured it out. And that was the game that I felt as like a company really brought us together. We all really enjoyed. We all were ready to like sink our teeth into and make bold claims and just kind of throw everything at the wall. It just like when I think about this summer, like Avalon's going to be something that I
Yeah.
really go back to of being like,
Yeah,
oh my God,
cool.
we all played this game and always had the most fun doing it. And we may or may not play another game before this season is through.
Oh
Who
yeah,
knows? But
it'll be in my bag. And
easily
It's in my
my
Oh, nice,
favorite
good.
game that we played. It was
With regards
just
to that,
always awesome. Always,
That's good.
always
That's
awesome.
Right on.
Yeah, I went and bought Avalon as soon as we played it.
Oh,
like,
nice.
Yeah.
For the first night we played it, because I was just like, oh, this is something that I could bring this out anywhere, any group of people. I think people would always kind of cling to it. And I think it's the thrill of like, you look at that card at the very beginning of the game and you go, I'm good. Okay. It's the thrill of just being like, okay, we have a mystery to solve and we're going to do it. It's this like crazy McCarthyism, like, who's
Were
there?
you always good?
Who's out there? I was like evil like once.
Yeah,
like
but
once,
generally it's
yeah.
always good. And when you're evil, you do that like,
I
okay,
love
it's a different
being
kind
on
of
the
thrill,
evil
but it's also a
team.
crazy
I
thrill.
love
being
the evil
evil.
team.
They're like, oh
Same.
my god.
And I love
Yeah.
voting like you're a good person, and
Oh,
then the good
love it.
people get so confused that they start
Yeah.
voting, and people are like, "Oh, you're bad then."
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's so
Oh.
juicy.
So good. And being Merlin too is just like such a like it's a thrill that I've never experienced in a game before. Just like I can win this for us. If I can just do this so secretly, then I will be the one to win this game
Right.
for my entire team. And
Just
then
don't
of course
be
I got the
Zach
one
as-
time I was Merlin, I got caught out like so
You just
easy.
didn't
It's just like-
Just don't
It's
be
okay.
Zach as Merlin. That's what I'll say.
yeah, don't be
Well,
Zach as Merlin.
Zach
Be me.
hid that
I
she was Merlin.
fucked that up so bad because I thought that me staying hidden
Zach-
was the
Yeah.
thing I had to do, and then I just didn't understand.
Zach hid being
it.
Merlin so well that she gave it to the evil team with absolutely
Yeah.
no difficulty. It
But
was
isn't there a character in Werewolf that does that? You're on the bad team, but you have to not get
That's-
killed, or you're on the good team, but you want to get killed.
No, you're on your own team. That's a Tanner.
I just
Yeah.
thought when I was Merlin, I couldn't out the bad people.
Mhm.
I didn't think that I could do that, but I could have.
You could, as long as they don't know.
I just
that
had
you're
to
Merlin.
be
Yeah.
hidden about
Yeah.
that. That
Yeah,
was the
yeah,
thing
correct.
that did not sell for me as
Yeah.
Merlin, but that game was just the
But
best.
it made for pretty funny.
Yeah.
Very just funny discussion at the end.
so fun.
Zach was like, "You two were so close to linking up. If that had happened,
Yeah.
we would have had it."
We're like,
then
you
I
could've-
could have revealed as like and been like, "Yes, I'm going to support."
I
this."
had a whole vision, and it didn't work out.
You're playing mind games on mind games.
Yeah.
And we were all out there like,
I have no idea who's evil.
no one makes any sense. No one is it. I don't know.
Oh.
Oh, it's great.
Anyway, yeah, a very fitting number one, number two.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in my top 10 games of all time.
Yeah.
Like, it still
Yeah,
is. It's
so
not
good.
going anywhere.
It's
Like,
so good.
I love it so much. It's just such a fun group social game where you can
Oh.
yell at each other for an hour or two and, still be friends afterwards.
So good.
Yeah. Anyway, those are the lists. Thank you, Aryelle, Zach, and Pat, for doing this.
Thanks
I thought
for having
Yeah,
us.
this was a lot of
My
fun.
pleasure.
This is so fun for me because
Yeah.
like I also wanted to know like how these hit. Like I knew we all enjoyed ourselves and like that's why we kept on returning and playing games with each other. But it's just nice to hear like a breakdown and hear the reasons and I also hope that you all enjoyed listening as well and that it was a good time. Anyway, that's it for us.
Oh wait, you had a question you wanted to circle back to.
Oh,
we all
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of answered
You all
it.
kind
but
of answered
just,
it. Yeah. To put it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What game that you would want to play again the most? You can rank them if you have like 3 or whatever, but whatever comes to mind.
I mean, Dune Imperium.
Dune
I just want to
Imperium.
play that again.
Yeah.
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 Just to feel what it's like again. Just
Yeah,
Two-way tie for me between Endless Winter and Rising Sun to
cool.
play again.
Yeah, mine are all the worker placement ones. I have literally Dune / Keyflower / Endless Winter.
Yeah, that you don't
Yes,
want to play
they're-
again.
yeah.
To sink your teeth more into.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I will say immediately buying Wavelength.
Yeah.
Like when this is all said and done.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Christmas is gonna be fun at all of our houses.
Yes, really.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great way to finish us off. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, all 3 of you, for being here. This was fun. We got to go do a production, our closing night with Romeo and Juliet.
But first, to the jacuzzi.
Get this to 20,000 subscribers.
That's true. I don't have a catchphrase, but we got to 20K by the end of the year. No, I don't have a catchphrase, but now it might be. 20K by the end of the year. To the jacuzzi.
Jacuzzi.
Maybe that's just that's Pat's catchphrase. That's Romeo's catchphrase. We got Romeo, Nurse / Tybalt, and Mercutio here. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you in the next one.